Oceanic dead zones. What are they? How do they come about? How do they impact productivity? And how can their occurrence be reduced? A dead zone is the term given to an area in the ocean that experiences such a low oxygen concentration that it becomes uninhabitable for marine organisms, with any motile organisms choosing to leave as the conditions deteriorate, and any non-motile organisms suffocating and dying from the poor conditions. Dead zones are the result of a number of specific conditions, such as nutrient, temperature, and light levels, aligning to create the perfect environment for a phytoplankton bloom. They are caused by an influx of nutrients, usually from land runoff, which creates the bloom. During the summer months, the ocean stratifies, with a cold, dense, oxygen-deficient layer of water settling at the bottom, and a warm, oxygen-rich layer at the top. The bloom attracts a vast array of marine life, who feed, excrete, and die, along with the algae itself, resulting in large increases in organic matter settling on the bottom. This organic matter is processed by various bacteria, who utilize the oxygen produced as the phytoplankton in the bloom photosynthesize, creating a hypoxic environment. When the algae settle on the bottom and use up the oxygen as they decompose, they cause the cold bottom layer to become completely hypoxic, making it uninhabitable. This is now a dead zone, and will remain so until the mixing of the layers, which primarily occurs during winter. Dead zones around the world are increasing as humans produce more waste and use more chemicals without careful management strategies. The largest contributors to the runoff that often causes dead zones are phosphorus and nitrogen-rich fertilizers used on a large scale by farmers. These nutrients often give the nitrogen or phosphorus-limited phytoplankton exactly what they need to grow on a huge and rapid scale. The burning of fossil fuels also plays a large role in dead zones as it produces nitrogen oxides which settle in smog. When it rains, this smog gets washed out of the sky and into the ocean, again supplying phytoplankton with a limiting nutrient. Another issue within dead zones is that nitrogen can also be held in sediment in the ocean. So even if the issue of nutrient input was resolved, dead zones can appear for years later as nitrogen-rich sediment is disturbed and releases its nutrients to feed a bloom. Dead zones are catastrophic in terms of ecological productivity and diversity. In their presence, very little can survive. They create biodiversity deserts that are home to nothing other than bacteria that produce potent greenhouse gases. This means that the presence of dead zones has the ability to increase greenhouse gas emission from the ocean, creating a damaging feedback loop. Furthermore, the lack of production that occurs in these areas completely destroys any fisheries that would usually occur, as fish, clams, prawns, as well as multiple other vital species cannot survive in the conditions. Dead zones will only become more abundant as climate change warms the oceans, due to the fact that the top layer of the ocean will heat up and become less dense, making mixing of the layers less common and therefore creating conditions in which dead zones can occur in lower layers of the water column. These issues limit the ability of the ocean to provide adequate food resources for people, as well as limiting the oxygen production, which is worrying considering at least 50% of the world's oxygen is produced by the ocean. The most obvious way to reduce the occurrence of dead zones is to put controls on nutrient input into the ocean. Nutrient reduction strategies are in place in one of the world's largest and most persistent dead zones, in Chesapeake Bay in the Gulf of Mexico, and they are playing a key role in improving the health of the bay. The establishment of total daily maximum loads for nitrogen and phosphorus are another key strategy, as they give indication as to the maximum quantity of the pollutant that can enter and be tolerated by the water body. Apart from this, the main course of action is to form an in-depth understanding of the formation of dead zones, work out how they actually affect ecosystems, and monitor and use models to assess the prevalence, duration, and severity of dead zones. Dead zones are an issue that will only become more common and damaging with time if not enough is done now to reduce their prevalence.